Hello everybody and welcome to EduCounts. In this video we're going to talk about the finding the product of any two polynomials, but specifically we're going to talk about the product of some special cases, and in this video we're going to talk about the product of one of these special cases, which is the finding the product of the difference between two terms or the sum of any two terms. Okay, so let's get started and try to understand this step by step together. So what we're gonna learn here is finding the product of some special cases of polynomials. So the first case that we have is the square of polynomial. So, or the square of binomial. The square of binomial specifically. So here we have a binomial, and the binomial, it has two terms as we mentioned before. So the first case that we have here, the sum of any two terms together squared. So we have like a plus b squared, and or the difference between any two terms squared, like a minus b squared. So how to find the product? As you can notice here, we have the product of this is going to be a trinomial, which it has three terms, and the same as the difference would be three terms or a trinomial. And this product, or the answer of the product, or the answer of the process of finding the product, so it has a special name that called the perfect square. So this part, or the trinomial here, it has a special name as perfect. It has a special name as perfect square. Okay, so the answer would be a perfect square. So how many ways that we have here to find the answer? We have several ways to find the answer of any binomial square. So we can use the FOIL method, we can use the table method, we can use the distributive property method, but there is a special or a short way to find the answer. So and this way it says that if you have any binomial squared, or the difference between two terms, or the sum between two terms like this, so you can apply this rule. Find the first term squared, and then so I need to find the first one squared. So we have three steps. The first step is finding the first term, okay, squared. So we need to find the first term squared. And the second step is finding the second one squared. Okay, so we have the second term and we need to find its squared. And the last step is 2, always multiply by 2, the first one, or the first term, times by the second term. Okay, so but don't forget to multiply by 2. As you can see here in the showing example, we have x plus 5 squared. It's the same as finding x squared and then 5 squared, and then multiply x by 5, then multiply by 2. And the answer would be a trinomial or a perfect square, which is x squared plus 10x plus 25. And the same as here, 2x minus 3 squared. We can find the 2x squared, which is the first term squared, and then negative 3 squared, or the 3 squared, it doesn't matter, and then the first one by the second one, which is 2x times with 3, then multiply this by 2, and the answer would be here 4x squared minus 12x plus 9, or a trinomial that called a perfect square. And the only difference between the uppercase and the lower one, which is this case, and this one, which is the second case, in case we have plus, the term that exactly in the middle would be positive, and in case we have negative, the term that exactly in the middle would be negative. Okay, so let's try to see some examples to understand this step by step deeply, and how to find this step by step. So here's we are given a question. It says that find the product or write this in the product form. We have several ways to write the question. One of the ways, it says that find or write this in the product form, or find the product of this form. Okay, so how to find this? We have the first term, we have the second one, the first one and the second one squared. So I need to follow the rules that I mentioned before. We need to find the first term squared. What exactly the first term? 3x. So we need to find 3x squared. So we need to find this first. And then the second step, we need to find the second term squared. So it's going to be 4 squared. And the last step, which is C, we need to find the first one, which is 3x. Okay, and then the second one, which is 4, multiply them together, and don't forget to multiply them by 2. Always multiply by 2. Okay, so one of the common errors or the common mistakes is some people always forget to multiply by 2, and this is gives them a different answer or a wrong answer. So always remember that we need to multiply by 2. So how to find the answer? We can find the answer easily right now by finding the first term squared. So we have 3x, so we need to square it. So the 3 is going to be 9, and the x would be x squared. So, and then we have 4 squared, it's going to be 16. And then we need to multiply 3x by 4, then by 2, by multiplying 2 by 4, and then by 3. We just need to multiply the numbers and write the x. So 3 times by 4, which is 12, times by 2, it's going to be 24. And finally, you need to write your answer by writing the first product, which is 9x squared, and then writing this one, which is 24x, is the term in the middle. And finally, we need to write the last number, or the constant, which is 16. And as I mentioned before, the product of this is, it has a special name as a perfect square. So how do you know that the trinomial is a perfect square? So if we are given this trinomial, let's take another slide here, like the one that we have right now. If we are given something like the one that we have right now, which is x squared plus 24x plus 16, and there is a trinomial. How do you know that this trinomial is a perfect square? So you can find, or you can determine this easily by finding the square root of the first term. So this is the first term, we need to find its square root, and finding the square root of the last term, which is 16. And as I know that the square root of 9x squared is the same as 3x. Okay, so you need to find the square root of 9, which is 3, and the square root of x squared, which is going to be x. And then the second one, or the second step, which is finding the square root of 16. So this is would be 4. The last step, if you multiply the first case, or the first answer, and the second one together, if you multiply here, if we multiply here 3x by 4, okay, and then we multiply the answer by 2, and this would be the same as the term that exactly in the middle. So let's try to multiply here. 3 by 4 is going to be 12, 12 by 2 is going to be 24, and then we need to write the x. And as I mentioned, this is the same as the term that exactly in the middle. So once you have the term in the middle, so the trinomial here is perfect square. So this is the meaning of perfect, okay guys, perfect square. So this is the meaning of the word perfect square. It's a trinomial where we can find the square root of the first one and the square root of the last term, and then multiply the answer by 2. This is would be the term in the middle. Okay, so let's take another example here to understand this. Here we have another one, but it looks like a complicated one since we have two variables, but it's not that complicated, it's too easy. So we need to follow the same steps by finding the first term squared, so it's going to be 5x squared, and then find the second term, which is going to be some people will say that should I write 2y or negative 4 or negative 2y, it doesn't matter, so you can write it as negative 2y then squared. So because since we have a square here, so the answer would be positive in both cases. So, and then we have the last step, multiplying the first term, which is 5x, and the second term, which is negative 2y, and then multiply this by 2. So how to find the answer right now? You just need to simplify the answers by finding the first one. So this is would be 5 squared, which is going to be 25, and then we have x squared, and then we have negative 2 squared, so it's going to be 4, not negative 4, since we have here squared. The square delete the negative sign, or eliminate the negative sign. And then we have y squared, and finally we have 5x times by negative 2y times by 2. All what we have to do right now, just multiply the numbers. 5 here by negative 2, and then multiply this by 2. So 5 times by negative 2 is going to be negative 10. You need to multiply negative 10 finally by 2, so this would be negative 20. What about the x and y? You need to write them behind the negative 20. So it's going to be negative 20xy, okay? Because we have two different variables here. And the last step, you just need to arrange this by writing the first product, which is 25x squared, and then writing the term that exactly in the middle. This would be by the term that came from multiplying by 2, so it's going to be negative 20xy. And finally, we need to write the square of the second term, which is going to be it came from the square of the second term, so it's going to be plus 4y squared, and you are done. So that's it. So as I mentioned, you have several ways to find the answer, so choose the best way that you understood, and you can apply it to find the same answer, because the distributive property it works here, and the FOIL method, it works as well. And finally we have the table method, it works as well. But how to use them? So if you'd like to use one of these methods, all what you have to do, just need to, let's take an example here to apply one or a different way to find the answer. So if we said that we have here 3x plus 5 squared, this is a binomial squared, and I don't like the first method that I mentioned. I need to use a different way to find the answer. Anything squared is the same as the same thing multiplied by itself. So it's the same as 3x plus 5 multiplied by itself, which is 3x plus 5. And here you can use the distributive property or the FOIL method or the table method. I prefer to use all of them right now in this video. So I'm gonna use first of all the distributive property method. So how to use the distributive property? So distributive, okay, property. How do you use it? So this is gonna be the longest one or the hardest way to find the answer, because once we are trying to find the distributive property or use the distributive property, so I'm gonna say that we have 3x plus 5 multiplied by itself, which is 3x plus 5. Okay, so I need to multiply firstly 3x by every single term in the second binomial, and then multiply 5 by every single term here. So, and then find or combine the like terms, then find the answer. So 3x times by 3x is going to be 9x squared, okay? And then 3x times by 5, so this is would be as 15x. So I'm done here. I finished the first step, which is multiplying 3x by every single term in the second binomial. So, and then we have 5 times by 3x, so this is would be 15x as well. And then we have 5 times by 5, which is going to be 25. And the last step you have to do right now is just rearrange this by writing or combine the like terms. We have two like terms here, 15x and 15x. So all what I have to do is just write 9x squared, and then 15x and 15x, this is would be 30x, and finally we need to write the constant, which is 25. And this is a perfect square, as I mentioned before. So this is the first way to find the answer, and instead of you don't like the way that I mentioned in the previous video. So what about the second method? The second method would be the FOIL method. Okay, so let's start to use the FOIL method. So I need to find the product of 3x plus 5 multiplied by 3x plus 5. Okay, so I need to find the first two terms together. So what are the first two terms together? It's 3x times by 3x. So this is would be 3x multiplied by 3x, which is equal 9x squared. And for the second step, we have O, which is the outer terms. What are the outer terms that we have? We have here 3x, okay, multiplied by 5. Okay, so this is the outer terms, and this would be 15x. And then we have the inner terms, so this is would be 5. Okay, so this would be 5 times by 3x, and this is would be the same as 15x. And finally we have the last two terms, which is 5 times by 5, and this is would be 5 times by 5, so that's would be 25. And all what you have to do right now, just rearrange this by writing 9x squared plus, we have two like terms, 15x and 15x, this is would be 30x, and then we have 25 would be written as a constant. So this is the FOIL method. What about the last way or the last method that we can use here? The last is that you have the table method. Okay, the table method, you can, since we have here two binomials, I have 3x plus 5 and times by 3x plus 5. Every single one has two terms, so I need 2 times by 2. I have two terms here times by two terms here. So I need a table of two columns, okay, like that one, and two rows like this one. So here, what I have to do, I'm gonna write here 3x and then plus 5, and on the other hand I'm going to write 3x and then plus 5 like this. So, and look up to the left, up to the left, so it's a 3x and 3x multiplied together, this would be 9x squared here, and look up, it's a 3x times by, to the left it's 3x times by 5, so it's going to be 15x. And here's, if we look up, it's going to be 5 times by the thing that to the left, which is going to be 3x, so it's going to be 15x as well. And then finally we have here in this cell, we need to look up, which is 5, and then to the left it's 5, so it's going to be 25. And since we have two like terms, which is 15x and 15x, we need to add them together, so this is would be 30x. So, and then rearrange the answer by writing 9x squared. We don't have any like terms with this one, and then we have this one and this one together, this is would be 30x, and finally we have 25.